I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. It's Fashion Week. It's Art Week. It's Art Week and Fashion Week. It's New York City. It's Andrew Kuo. How are you doing on an overcast Monday here in the fulcrum of the universe?
Wild, man. It's been a whirlwind tour. From one seat to the next, to another end beer situation, to a night market. It's just been a wild ride through basically 2015 New York.
Are you frowning?
Am
Are
I
you?
am I frowning? What does that mean?
Front rowing.
No, but you are. Come on, man.
You're
no,
not. You're not frowning.
I'm front row at some noodle shops for sure, but not at these fancy ass fashion shows.
Everyone else is parading around on runways. You are frowning at the reopening of New York Noodle Town. The mayor of Noodleton.
I put on my hard hat, I strapped on my boots, took my lunch pail over to Bowery Street and experienced the reopening of that amazing restaurant, man.
Did you get the ginger scallion medley?
I was flying solo, so I couldn't go all the way, and I was on my way to another glamorous event, so I couldn't stuff myself with food. But I had my go-to, which is wonton noodle soup with extra roast pork.
Ooh, so from Averagedon to Noodleton.
That's right.
Story of a come up.
I'm the 7th mayor of Noodleton, depending on who you ask. It was great, man. I mean, you ever think about restaurants that were like just kind of good for decades, and then all other restaurants, better and worse, kind of sloth away, and then it's the only one standing, and it's an institution. Like Noodletown was good forever, but not like revered in the way it is now. And I'm like, this is still good, but like not to be an old head. Back in the day, like this was pretty standard fare. But now, people really have feelings about that place.
I mean, this is like the quote from, ironically, the movie Chinatown. Where it's like, if they last long enough, they become respected. And the reference was to prostitutes, politicians, ugly buildings, and Noodleton.
Fashion designers, bloggers, NBA players. Shout out to, I'm trying to think, Jared Jack, man. No basketball on this pod. No, don't even try.
I don't watch basketball. I don't even watch the games, bro. I don't know anything about it.
Wake me up when there's 2 minutes left in the finals.
What's that thing they say? Like, it doesn't even matter. You don't have to watch any of the games. You just read the stats. You know, I just look at people's VORPs.
Yeah.
Give me the VORP. Give me the VORP.
King.
I don't care who won. I don't care how many jams there were. Just read me the VORPs.
I'm not even going to pretend like I read the VORPs, man. I'm so out. But as soon as Jason Tatum gets those hiccups, let me know. Late in the finals. Okay, enough basketball. We've already sullied this podcast.
Yeah, but the whole point was no basketball, and now we've perverted it. Yet, I think we will turn this back around to perfection.
We'll come back. What'd you do this week, man?
Well, I went to the Colleen Estrada show, who's a friend of the pod, former guest. I guess a guest is forever. So a guest of the pod. Mm-hmm. She came on after the Met Gala
One of
last
my
year.
favorite guest drops.
That was a great drop. And her show was this week. It was last Friday. It was great. It was at this place that's in the Naval Yard. I think it was called the Naval Cemetery, but now it's a refuge for monarch butterflies. The only monarch I acknowledge.
Right. With the Nike shoes, sure.
Yeah, exactly. And but I think it's a private I don't think it's open to the public that you can just roll around there because it's for the monarchs to feed on milkweeds. There's milkweeds all over the place. And then
Did you
the
see
show was
any of
called
those
Got
butterflies?
Milkweed.
Oh,
I
Did
saw a
you
bunch
see
of
any?
beetle. I saw a bunch of beetles eating the milkweed. I don't know if they are going to turn into monarchs or like. Like they were like orange and black. They kind of looked monarchy. They might have been monarch.
They were in their Meghan Markle TV phase. They had not yet turned into what they will eventually become.
But they would be
Or not
caterpillars
become.
first, not beetles, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're trying to save the monarchs, but they're like not really freaking Monsanto.
Well, as a monarchist, no, but it was a great show.
Yeah.
The runway itself was almost like the size of I don't know, like a track, like a
Yeah.
quarter mile. Not quite that big, but it was substantial, and the pacing was a little different at first, and then once people got rolling, it was normal in that way. But it was really cool because everyone really had like their Frau experience for the most part. It wasn't tiered or crowds of people like most shows because the walkway was so big that everyone was like sitting with an unobstructed view, and then there were people standing behind you who also it's pretty much unobstructed for them too.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. I thought her collection looked great. Shout out to Kalina Strada,
Yeah.
friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod. The crazy thing about weeks like this in New York is sometimes I realize how big this city is, obviously, but like there's certain places that I don't really have access to until someone does a party there, until someone does a show there, or it's like kind of reserved for people with money, like weddings, events, and that kind of thing. I did not know about this Monarch preserve, and there's some secret stuff in New York City I love, like in that's free and accessible. Like in Nolita, you can kind of wander into some old cemeteries, like Gangs of New York era cemeteries that are cool. In Central Park, they open up certain like walkways that are usually closed that are kind of amazing. But sometimes I feel bad because so much of the city is like paywalled. Not that everyone would go to this Monarch Preserve, but like that sounds nice. I would go there with my family.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think that one's about
Right.
wealth. I think it's about saving the queens.
God saving the queens, sure. No, yeah, 100%. And
I would also say, just to furiously push back on this idea,
yeah,
your idea, that the city is paywalled, which I totally agree with. But to push back on something that I fully also believe, I think sometimes we don't go to those things that are available, and I can't speak for everyone, but there are definitely places that I've heard of. Like, yeah, what about like this horticultural society in the Bronx? What about like this and that? I'm like, I could also have like $60 worth of beers.
Wait, are you telling me one beer costs $60? Man, whew, talk about a paywall. And beer, that'll be $60.
But what about this wilderness preserve that's accessible via the 3 train? Like, but the beers that are overpriced are much closer. They're just so much closer.
Well, Ben, I gotta tell you, I hope for this future for you because I'm living in. I wouldn't call it hell, but I'm in this future that you're describing. I have a wonderful family, and we do things like that. Last weekend we went to the Botanical Gardens in Brooklyn.
That was the one I almost brought up. Yeah,
Dude, it's beautiful. I had a very average sandwich there. I touched grass, dude. It was awesome. It's worth it. And then I also went to the zoo right near there, the Brooklyn Zoo, after I went to the Central Park Zoo a few weeks ago. I'm doing it, man. So I'm holding that torch.
I didn't know that you were like on the vanguard of like zoos, botanical gardens.
I mean,
Do you go to the beach at all?
yeah, we went to the beach. It's not like I'm not trying to have N beer for $60. I propose this every morning. I'm like, listen, guys, why don't we get N beer? It's only gonna cost $60. And my family's like, we're going to the beach. And I'm like, all right. But I'm more of like a.
Hey,
I like-
this is crazy. This is crazy. You've just been out here seeing the sights,
That's right.
and like behind my back, you've been
Yep.
you've
Yep.
you've been looky-looing all over town.
Yeah, I can be bought, man. Everything has its price. I'm going to see the Monarch Preserve in Central Park.
I think of you now so differently. Before I was
Yep,
like,
yep.
I had this picture of Quo, and now it's with like a digital camera strung around your neck, and you're holding like an Olympic torch of cotton candy, and like a little site map with a "You Are Here," and like you're trotting around, and you're just seeing all that New York has to offer.
Yeah, and the closer reality would be me trying to find a good cell phone signal to catch up on a Knicks trade rumors. In the midst of this beautiful
No
Monarch
basketball.
Preserve.
No basketball.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Knicks, the celebrity Knicks, like I was like,
The Knicks,
all
the Knicks City Dancers. The Knicks City Dancers.
Nick Van Exel, Nick Young, the boxer Nick Young. No, but like not because I want to. I gotta be honest here. All right, this is the first time I've ever been honest on this pod. I don't like to go to Monarch Preserves. I don't like to eat very average sandwiches in beautiful, bucolic grass under a weeping willow. But it's cool. Like, I'm not going on a trip anytime soon. I didn't go away this summer. I went to the John George Seaport Food Hall yesterday. It felt like I was in Merry England. Is England merry? Grand old
It's jolly as hell.
Yeah, yeah. Felt like Harrods, but without the Diana conspiracy theory exhibit.
You
Which I
were
Yeah, I'm doing it.
you
man.
were out there.
I'm doing. I went to all the art fairs. Come on, let's
gee.
go.
All right. So, do you want to talk about this Jean George thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are you claiming, despite our advocacy of Midtown, that in fact the Seaport is the future of New York?
What? Okay. Now you're giving our buddy Pablo too much credit because not only is he the mayor of Midtown, Averagton, he also works right by the seaport. So now it's
Wow.
like, yo, you're calling him like a two-way mayor, basically.
I call it SEPO, short for Seaport,
Yeah.
because Seaport's two syllables are slightly longer
Then they
in
should
terms of letters than just saying SEPO.
heading to the CPO. Going to CPO. Where do you want to have lunch? Well, obviously the CPO. It was fancy as
Thinking about
hell.
moving down into SEPO. SEPO is weird because you've got like the new Cipriani social club. You've got the Italian sort of kind of like Colette, creative. What do you even call those things? It's like a big store that sells a bunch of stuff that's all cool. Concept store, like that. They think that's the catch-all that they throw around those kind of places. So that's down there. I think I covered the opening of it like 2 years ago.
Well, you have Cookies Hoops classic legend SIBO, so that's confusing with SIPO.
That confuses people as well. You also have the rapper from Sacramento, right? SIBO the Pro. That's cause for concern. So are you claiming that Midtown is over? All roads and ships now lead to the SIPO.
I think not only does every city now have a midtown that's modeled after New York City's hottest neighborhood, I think various parts of New York now have their own midtown. So the seaport is one thing, and then the SIPO is the midtown of the seaport.
Okay, that's fair.
It's like a Russian dolls of midtowns.
So things have changed down there since they got rid of the Fulton Fish Market.
Yes, they have. What, like 20 years ago? Yeah.
So let me get this straight.
John Morant was born and became an all-star. Yeah, that happened.
Fish market
No, that's-
left.
Right.
Fish market left.
So there's no more fishmongers down there.
Are you sure the fish market left, or is that in the? Are they planning on leaving? Are they still down there?
It's kind of a shame though, because they should have held on to some sort of like a fake Nathan Fielder version of that, sort of like what they did in Seattle. Like, we know the fish throwing in Seattle is all stunts. It's all for show. But they should have kept that in New York City, I think. Just like a little corner of it where they kind of sell fish that they fly over from like China frozen.
I agree. Because say what you want.
I will.
The current version of the SIPO. You have been showering it with praise.
Well,
The Fulton Fish Market was cool.
it was cool. And then, that janky like mall was kind of cool with the food court on top. That was like very depressing. Not to say that they should have kept it depressing, but it also had its charm. They demoed that for like all this new stuff, which is also cool. There's a music venue on top of the building. There's ESPN. There's Nike.
There's also that bar down there.
The Yankee Clipper.
Say that again.
The Yankee Clipper.
I don't know. Are you sounding like someone from Boston, or just like a someone who just jumped off a schooner?
The Yankee. It's 9/11, and the Yankees wore those NYPD hats. I am not a fan of the Irish police force, but the Seaport. That's the culture down there. You must be talking about the Yankee Clipper.
I'm talking about that bar that has like bras on the ceiling and opens at like 8 a.m.
Wait, like a Hogs and Heifers type situation, like Coyote Ugly situation?
No, it's really. I think it was for.
Oh, you're talking about right by the bridge.
I think it was for people who used to work at the fish market, because they'd get done at like 8 a.m. and they go over there. And now I think it's kind of like C shift guys from like fire departments or
Bunch
cops
of bras
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bras are just to trick people into the illusion that women have been in that building.
But no bras. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine opening up shop? Well, there was like Meatpacking had the same thing, right? A lot of places where you can get breakfast and also get booze, because that's their nighttime. That's their happy hour, right? So,
Yeah, it was 100% that for sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't like even a decadent thing.
Right.
It was more like, hey, some people stop working at 8 a.m. and want to get a beer.
Yep. They've been working since like 11 p.m. for sure. I don't remember it. Did you go?
I've been there, yeah.
Was there food, or is it just $60?
There are braziers on the ceiling. It's true.
Wow.
I
Beers?
hear that word brazier too much. Like me, as someone who respects women, I don't think you should shorten it to bra. I think you should call it.
Bunch of brazzes.
I think brazier.
Brazzies.
Brazier is
What
the
is a
proper
brazier?
term.
Well, how is that different than like a bruh?
They're the same thing.
Okay, I don't know. Cool, very cool that we squared that away. We got to the bottom of that. We got a lot of work to do to make this.
Now think of the word brazier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you shorten it in the same way that we have shortened Seatown Seaport to SIPO, it's just the first three letters. It's almost like my name is Benjamin, but I'm Ben. Like brazier, brah.
Brah. Okay, so there's a bunch of brah. Is it brah plural?
Well, I mean, you could, because then it's just the first four letters, like braz.
Well, it doesn't need that, right? It's like sheep. Now I'm just picturing a bunch of sheep with bras on them. Brah.
So, like, yeah, the singular of bra is also the plural.
So is that space
Like
now?
there's bra all over the ceiling.
Is that Debaucherous Bar or not Debaucherous Bar now like a Ben and Jerry's, or
No, it's
is
still
it?
there.
Oh, it's still there. Mm-hmm. Respect, but no one's working unless they work at the SIPO overnight. Like no one's waking up or ending their day at 8 a.m. and having.
Right? It's just kind of a security guard bar.
Is it?
Oh, look, here come the night watchmen. They're rolling in and
All
at
of
8
them.
a.m.
Yeah.
There's like 4.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Okay, so we've established the SeaPo is the up and coming neighborhood that everyone should be checking out. Did you do anything else interesting this week? Like, were you in Ladiv Square at all? I suspect you probably were. I saw you.
What do you mean
at our friend-
suspect? We were there together. I was
That's why I suspected it.
Well, I was there 4 days in a row, which is a lot, even for a local. But like, it is the easiest place to go. If someone's like had buddies from out of town, friend of the pod, Akko Jefferson was in town, and he was like, "Let's meet up somewhere." I'm like, the easiest thing is like pick between Beat Bar and the other Beat Bar, Ladiv. Figure it out, right? It was the easiest thing because I was trying to think of other options. Like, do we meet at in the Tribeca or in Soho? And those are just not as enticing or fun because I kind of like the 1.5 bars on Canal Street.
Have you thought about a watering hole in the SeaPo? And there's bra all over the ceiling.
You can't get the public transportation down there is a little dicey. It's hard to enter and get out, I would say, of the SeaPo. But the F train is right there, so I don't know. I would say it's too hard to go to the SeaPo. That's a destination $60 beer.
There was a little write-up on some of the restaurants in Ladiv Square that ran in the New Yorker a few days ago, and they mentioned Time Cafe, sushi restaurant from some friends of ours, and they mentioned the hotel and the corner bar there, and I think they also just referred to a few of the other places that we would consider among that small cohort of bars and restaurants. They
Swap
said
bar.
it's jump. They said it's Good World. They said it had jumped the shark. That was the headline. Times Square has jumped the shark. Where do you stand on that? Has it jumped the shark?
Is that this? It would be the TV term for Dime Square is over. Is this like? First of all, Dime Square is totally imaginary. Whatever you read about it on the internet or in an actual printed magazine is all made up. None of the things that actually claim to be happening there actually happen. It's just a bunch of old people buying $60 brews, waking up early in the morning. But no, it's amazing. I walked through this week a bunch of times. It's awesome, man. They're like, I would say like everyone has stepped up their game a little bit. Like the restaurants are kind of like looking good. The food I had was pretty awesome. Everything was like clicking on a more efficient level of just like in and out kind of stuff, like getting your seat, leaving. I'm not a big fan of the hotel, but I kind of stay in my zone, and that zone is a nice zone, man.
We didn't go to the GQ party.
Was that at the hotel? I missed that.
Well, the only thing I know that was at the party, the only party I know, it wasn't even a party. The Marc Jacobs show was on the roof. That happened.
That is like the least interesting place to do anything right now, right? But people are curious about it, so it could be a nice draw that way. But if I was like, oh yeah, okay, Cookie Soup's Classic at 11 Orchard, everyone would be like, because they're on their whole PR reach out cycle, right? That every hotel does, trying to get eyes on them. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
It's probably a bargain, you know. I'm sure they're giving people like Marc Jacobs a hefty discount.
Oh, probably so. I don't
Even
know
free.
where. There was a GQ party. I don't know where it was.
Yeah, I forget.
There's a lot of I'm just noticing that players from a sport that we're not talking about were there.
Not if we want to keep this pod perfect.
Devin Booker, Jeremy Grant was there.
Is he?
Royce O'Neal was there.
Wow, Brooklyn legend.
Interesting.
Your girl Keish was there, I saw.
Yep. Yeah, I saw her at the Kalina show. She had a nice full Kalina ensemble. You know, it's
Yeah.
nice when you see your friends working together.
there was some like confusion because the Armory usually doesn't fall on this week. I think they reorganized everything because of pandemic stuff. People put money down on booths. There was like a little bit of scheduling stress with the art market stuff this week and Fashion Week, and it was a bit too much. I wish they had like kind of spread it out a little bit, because it's
I
hard.
don't even know when all the art fairs hit anymore.
I don't either. It's all different now. There was the Independent this week and the Armory, and all the galleries opened. So not only do you have, I mean, great stuff to look at and things to do, but like it was just multiplied on top of the usual Fashion Week schedule.
And then you also have Frieze Week, which is kind of an entity on itself at this point, where not only Frieze, but I feel like there are other galleries that sort of time themselves with Frieze as well.
Always. Oh yeah, always. And then Nada kind of piggybacks that. The independent fair, the proper independent fair, or the contemporary independent